Love when a news story breaks out and all of a sudden the sides flip. You know what I mean? CBS comes out with a news story yesterday, and then everybody else picked it up that the officer, the ICE officer, who's already been doxxed, already have his personal information, that already got out there, did in fact, according to CBS and the Department of Homeland Security and his own doctors and public officials, did have internal injuries because of the result of him shooting Renee Good. Well, all of a sudden, every lefty loon in your life doesn't believe the mainstream media. We'll talk about that as well. But on the very same day that that information got out there, now there's a crazy movement among the Democrats to abolish ICE. It's not going to go far, obviously, but it is an actual bill that'll be moving through the House this week. You got to hear, you have to see the congressman that's introducing this thing. It is just absolutely amazing. More amazing than that, though, is an incredible piece of testimony. It's long, and we're going to have to bounce through it, but you have to hear the entire thing yesterday. So in the Senate, there was an OBGYN, an actual doctor, and a professor at Emory University who would not deny that men can't get pregnant. Wouldn't do it. In fact, implied that they can. The line of questioning is incredible, and you have to hear it. And Tim Walz tried to do a live stream last night to explain everything going on, and now we have to get ICE out of Minneapolis and all this. He couldn't even do that right. We'll get to the whole thing. Don't you worry about it. Thanks for finding the Wicked Radio live stream Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. right here, X, YouTube, Facebook, audio podcast. Shortly after that, wherever you like to get them, and then the replay on all those channels. Let's get right to it. Now, there is a movement underway to abolish ICE. We'll get to that in just a second. Because on the same day where this movement, then this bill is set to be introduced, a CBS News report came out just yesterday, and let me just read it so make sure I have the information correct, because you have to get this right. This is from CBS News, mainstream news, which has been no friend to the Trump administration. We all know that, even though they do have some new leadership. And here's the report. This is what caused all the controversy yesterday. Breaking! And this happened early afternoon. The ICE agent who fatally shot Renee Good on January 7th in Minneapolis, Jonathan Ross, his name has already been out there, he's already been doxxed, suffered internal bleeding to the torso following the incident, according to two U.S. officials briefed on his medical condition. Now, guess the reaction to this. CBS News, traditional, boy, there's no more mainstream legacy media outlet than CBS News. All of a sudden, everybody you know that is left-leaning Democrat has told you not to be a conspiracy theorist, all of a sudden came out of the woodwork and said, well, you can't believe that. I'm calling bullshit on this. That's not, you can't believe the media. Oh, oh, is that right? You mean the same thing we've been telling you for decades now, to question everything you see from the media? But all of a sudden they're questioning this because it doesn't fit that narrative. Now think back 1 week, not to regurgitate the story again because it's very controversial. It's very sad. I obviously get that. Many lives were affected by that incident. Think of everybody that was online, every public official, every lunatic that was on TikTok and Instagram, everybody else in your life that said, the car didn't even touch him. Well, we know as of last week, the car did in fact touch him. And if you would want to believe, and I don't think, in my opinion, they would come out with this because you have to be able to prove it, because the next step in this is going to be x-rays. They wouldn't come out with something this strong unless they had the backing of it. So now where are they? So now where are all the people online that told you that the car, there was no reason whatsoever, to shoot Renee Good? I think there was. And in fact, remember this because it's relevant to the story. Remember this. This is the same officer that was dragged 30 feet 6 months before this incident and suffered other injuries on that. You think in the same situation you or I would have been kind of quick to shoot and his life was in danger, whether it was an accident or not? Where did we, and I know I've said this a million times, where did we get to the point where we actually think you can stand in front of a car and not think you're going to be that you're going to have an ICE officer stand in front of your car and you move the car at all and not think you're going to be shot. And that applies to an ICE officer, a federal agent, a community cop, a community resource officer that's armed. You're in a 2,000-pound vehicle. If it moves and they're telling you to stop and they're in front of it, you're going to get shot. That's common sense. But as we know, they don't have common sense. All right, let's get to this now. The very same day, this is important to the timeline here. The very same day that the big CBS report came out that Jonathan Ross did suffer internal injuries, that didn't stop the looniest of the loony Democrats to come out and introduce a bill to abolish ICE. And all the favorites were there. Oh my God, they were all there. But here's the amazing part. Here's the incredible part. Is this press conference went off without a hitch to introduce this bill that actually is going to move pretty far before it gets shot down through the House of Representatives. This was just yesterday. Keep in mind the timeline. After we know that Jonathan Ross did suffer internal injuries.
And we must reform ICE. But it looks at this stage, folks, ICE is beyond reform. ICE is totally out of control. And this week, I intend to introduce a bill to abolish ICE. We need to make ICE go away. 2003, before 2003, without ICE, various federal agencies were able to take care of business, and we can do this without ICE, but we do not.
I'll submit that without comment. You just make a... Who is it now? Well, good job, Michigan. You've put that guy in Congress. Shri Thanedar, is it? Thanedar? Yeah, well, good job. Going to introduce the bill. It'll exist. It's not going to go far, but it'll exist. And it'll go further than you think. Now, here's the real shame. He gets a press conference and will be hailed as a hero among the Democrats. You know who they're trying to shut up on this issue immediately? John Fetterman, the Democratic senator from Pennsylvania, who ironically suffered a stroke, as we all know, rewired his brain, and now he makes the most common sense out of any Democrat in Congress. That needs to be studied. Maybe it's a wiring issue. Anyway, this was him talking about the ICE movement now with this. And the sad thing is they're going to primary this guy into non-existence. He's like becoming public enemy among the Democrats because he's the one, I think, that's actually talking common sense.
With the president or with the other side in this, very, very polarized kind of time. But, I would rather just be very honest and just kind of play it straight. I would rather be a great, honest senator than one that's just only going to play to just one side. I represent Pennsylvania, the most purple state in the country. I don't just represent Democrats. I represent 13 million Pennsylvanians, and I try to just play it straight. And I have to think that's my responsibility.
Real shame, right? Now, if you just landed on the planet and you didn't know what that guy was all about, you didn't know Democrat, you didn't know Republican, left, right, donkeys, elephants, what, you just listen to that guy and you're like, well, he sounds like a common sense kind of guy. Sounds like he's like middle ground. He just wants to represent everybody, despite the fact, no, not in our world. No, not in their world. What they'll do, they're gonna make that guy unelectable to even dog catcher. He's gonna be public enemy number one among the Democrats. I don't think he's going to flip to Republican. I have no idea. But it's such a shame because they used to have a lot of people like that. They did. And Republicans did too, where they would offer balance, right? They would offer balance and they would counteract each other. And that's how the system's supposed to work. That in this day and age, with all the rhetoric, that guy is going to be public enemy number one and non-existent among the Democrats. And that's a real shame because John Fetterman has the guts. And this started when he stood up for Israel. Remember that? and he spoke out against the Jewish students getting locked out of Ivy League schools. Remember that? Yeah, that's when they first turned on him. They're going to primary him. In other words, they're going to run somebody against him for his own seat among his own party because he dared to try to insert some common sense into what they're doing there. And that's a real shame. It's just that's where we are these days. It's so extreme, one or the other. That's what it's all led to. But it led to this. Now, here's my favorite story of the day. Now, this is a little long, and this is going to have to be one of those we bounce through to try to take it piece by piece. You have to hear this, though, if you didn't catch this already. Now, who among us has time to sit during your busy workday to listen to a Senate hearing? Nobody. So we hear clips, the aftermath. If anything remarkable happens, we'll usually hear about it, and your favorite podcasters will talk about it. Sometimes it makes the news. This needs to be put on public display, because if you've ever wondered, where did we really get crazy? Like, where did things really go off the rails? Come on, we've always had crazy neighbors. You've always had a crazy elderly person in your life that's a shut-in that listens to The View and thinks that's real. You've always had somebody that's a little kooky, comes out of college, and all of a sudden they have the woke mind virus. That's one thing. That's fine. That's people in your personal life. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. Where we really went off the rails was in medicine and psychiatry and surgery and medical studies and research. Those are the people that do the most damage, because it's like putting the craziest relative you have in a very influential position. I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Verma. She's a professor at Emory University, but she's also a still practicing OBGYN. What this means is, let's say you have a daughter. I got two. I get it. And your wife, or you as a dad or anybody, took your daughter into Dr. Verma's office somewhere in Georgia. First OBGYN appointment, whatever it is, not my world. You very well could be in line with, or can't get an appointment, because there's a dude looking to see Dr. Verma who wants guidance through his pregnancy. I said that correctly. His pregnancy. Because Dr. Verma was a Senate hearing testimony expert yesterday. The whole bill, they had a Senate hearing about this abortion pill. We're not going to get into that. What you have to get into, what you have to understand is what she said about men getting pregnant, or more importantly, what she didn't say in her line of questioning. Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri did a pretty good job on this one, going through the entire thing. She would not, at any point in this line of questioning, she would not deny the fact that men cannot get pregnant, but you have to hear her reasoning. Again, keep in mind, this is where we went really crazy. It's long, but I promise you have to hear this whole thing. It's incredible. We'll take it bit by bit. Josh Hawley starts the line of questioning. Here comes Dr. Verma, and she's not the only one in the country like this.
I wasn't sure I understood your answer to Senator Moody a moment ago. Do you think that men can get pregnant?
I hesitated there because I wasn't sure where the conversation was going or what the goal was. I mean, I do take care of patients with different identities. I take care of many women. I take care of people with different identities. And so that's where I paused. I think...
We're going to pause too. Hold on. First of all, that's not bad. That's okay. Because Josh Hawley was asking about her hesitance to answer the question from a previous senator. And so all she's doing so far is explaining why she paused, and she's talking about her office, okay? That's just the first part. That's not bad yet. It's really not. Here you go.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
Well, the goal is just the truth. So can men get pregnant?
Again, the reason I paused there is I'm not really sure what the goal of the question is.
The goal is just to establish a biological reality. You just said a moment ago that science and evidence should control, not politics. Absolutely. So let's just test that proposition. Can men get pregnant?
I take care of people with men identities, but
can men get pregnant?
There are many women that can get pregnant. I do take care of people that don't identify as women.
Can men get pregnant?
Again, as I'm saying,
let me just remind you what you testified to a moment ago. Science and evidence should control, not politics. So, can men get pregnant? You're a doctor, I think.
Science and evidence should guide medicine.
We're like minutes into this now. Not you and I, it's all edited, but still, she will not deny it at this point. She's moved beyond just talking about the kind of people that come through her office. She can't control that. She has to control how she handles them. Will not, but listen how she gets upset at, she doesn't want to deal with the fact and the yes or no answer. She wants to find out where this question is going. This is amazing.
Science and evidence tell us that men can get pregnant, biological men. Can they get pregnant?
I also think yes-no questions like this are a political tool. And
no, yes-no questions are about the truth, Doctor. Let's not make a mockery of this proceeding. This is about science and evidence. And I'm asking you, the United States Supreme Court just heard arguments yesterday at great length on this question. This is not a hypothetical question. This is not theoretical. It affects real people in their real lives. And you're here as an expert, called by the other side as an expert. And you've been telling us that you follow, right, you're a doctor. and you follow the science and the evidence. So I just want to know, based on the science, can men get pregnant? That's a yes or no question. It really is, I think.
I think you're trying to reduce the complexity of a lot.
I'm not.
That's my favorite part. That's the highlight. I think you're trying to reduce the complexity of the situation. And I think yes, no questions are political. You can't find a simpler, more common sense question to ask anybody, whether they're a doctor or not. Can men get pregnant? Well, I think you need to look at all the circumstances. I don't know how he did not pull his hair out trying to get some answers out of her.
I'm trying to get to an answer, and I'm trying to test, frankly, your veracity as a medical professional and as a scientist. Can men get pregnant?
I think you're also conflating
This is
male
extraordinary.
female with
No, I'm not conflating male and female. They're two different things. There's biological men and there's biological women. And I want to know, can men get pregnant?
What you were talking about is biological.
You're not going to answer my question, it sounds like.
Biological males.
This isn't hard, doctor. Can men get pregnant? Yes or no?
I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you that is not coming from a place of trying to be polarized.
That's what they always do. I'd be more than happy to answer this question where it's not polarized, right? Where she can conflate the issue and confuse it again and bog it down into nonsense and lunacy when they're faced with a yes or no question. You realize how freaking crazy they are. And I'll say it again. We all wonder where we went off the rails in our country. It wasn't your kooky neighbor. It wasn't your crazy son or daughter. It wasn't your grandma who watches The View and is completely twisted by that or believes the New York Times. It's those folks right there. It's the people that went through with very high grade PhDs, doctorates, research studies that have been funded by the millions to influence society this way. That's where we went crazy. People like her. She's an actual, professor, sure, but an actual practicing OBGYN. That's what's out there, and that's what we need to push back against. So as infuriating as that is, because it comes to the light and things like that, that's where we start to make changes. That's where we start. I mean, from a practical purpose, right? Let's say you're taking your daughter or you're a woman and you're going yourself for the first time to a new OBGYN office. You just moved to a new area. Is this so far-fetched to call and say, hi, could I speak to Dr. Verma myself before my appointment and ask her, can men get pregnant? Do you service men in your practice? And if she says, well, I think it's a more complex issue. Click. You don't foster into and support offices like that and professors like that and doctors like that and researchers like that because they are freaking nuts. So good for Josh Hawley and his line of questioning there to bring it out to the world and expose it. That is freaking crazy. Anyway, let's wrap it up with some comedy from comedic genius Tim Walz. I mean it. Tim Walz, unintentionally, might be, I've said it before, I know, the most dangerous man in the country because he's stupid, but he's also one of the funniest people in the country. Because when Tim Walz speaks publicly in any manner of fact, you know what I'm looking at, and I'm going to jump into the camera close. He always looks worried. We have to get ice out of Minneapolis. Well, it's even better when Tim Walz tries to do a live stream on YouTube and it's a complete fail. And he has that concerned, stupid, pretend tough guy, fat boy look, and the audio is a mess. This has since been deleted, but as we know, the internet lives forever. This is Tim Walz trying to do a live stream last night with the same old garbage that ice is bad and there's no fraud and all this other crap. He can't even do a live stream correctly. This was last night. Let's see what important messages he had for the country.
The federal government is raining down upon our communities.
What's happening in Minnesota
2,000 to 3,000 armed agents of the federal government have been deployed to Minnesota.
What? Huh? Now, the joke writes itself. Tim Walz is talking out of both sides of his mouth again with the two voices. Ha ha. But it just goes to show you, incompetence shows up in every facet of his life. Can you imagine this guy trying to run his personal life? They couldn't even do a live stream correctly and get the audio right. It's since been deleted, but everybody is making fun of it today because once you put it out there, it's there forever. All right. What's our takeaway? I think the takeaway from today is to look at the hypocrisy of all your crazy lefty lunatic lib friends or the people you work with, the people in your family, because now all of a sudden they don't believe mainstream news like they have for years when they say that the DHS officer who shot Renee Good suffered internal injuries. Now all of a sudden they're telling you not to believe that. Right. And be careful who the real lunatics are in the world. It's people like Dr. Verma and psychiatrists and doctors and surgeons and researchers and professors. That's who you have to watch out for. Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate you, as always. Tomorrow's Friday, so I'm hoping the news is a lot lighter. Who knows? We'll make it light if it's not. Thanks for finding the live stream. Every single day, Monday through Friday, Wicked Radio is on YouTube and on X and on Facebook, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Then there's a replay on those channels and the audio podcast. By the way, just side note, thank you for all the subscriptions and the subscribes and the likes and the follows to the audio podcast version, because it always fools me. People love audio still because that's growing by leaps and bounds. So wherever you like to get those, please do. All right, make it a wicked awesome Thursday.